You got anything, Bart?
I do not.
Hang on.
I still see a little like a line through your video thing, and I've asked you to start video. I didn't even ask you to start video, so hold on here. That works.
Yeah, it actually pops up and says start my video, and I hit yes, and then it's giving me a setting. I think it's in.
Maybe have like a hard.
You're live.
Because I like
Yeah, but is that logged in through Zoom?
I have like a mechanical thing I can shut off. So.
Yeah, but that's YouTube, but it's on his thing. This might be interfering with that.
I don't think so, because that what he's doing is separate. See, like he's live here on you. This is live right now on YouTube.
He can't see it.
Oh well, you can't see it.
But
so it's on your end. Whatever the video is not showing.
We're working through some technical difficulties here, but thank you all for joining us, and we're excited to have David off here.
There you go, Bill. Let me see here. Bill, I think it's here. I think this is the setting here. See, the video is off right here. Yeah, because I've used this before and it worked fine. Let me see here.
Welcome everybody. We're just working through David's video, and we're very excited to have you all here. It's going to be a great lecture. One of the more fun topics I think we've had. So, just standing by for a second.
This
not
is
quite 7 yet.
Bill, what if I just log in for his sake? Just log into the other thing and do it through there. What if I just log into just the Zoom link that he gave me? Oops. Give me a sec, Bart. I'm going to hop in the back end here and see if I figure this out.
Yeah, sure. Sure, we're good.
What's that?
That's still live.
It's okay. It's just audio.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We're really excited to have David off here of Waldor Orchids, and David's just working out a couple of technical difficulties on his end, but I just wanted to talk to everybody and say thank you for being here. You know, this is a crazy time, right, with this pandemic, and we really felt strongly that we wanted to have lectures at theory, we wanted to have as much of the normal experience as possible, but we didn't want to stuff
this is the one I got to take care of. All this is secondary, as I'm saying.
For an hour, and it just seemed like not a great idea. We're doing other stuff
here
at the show to try to take into account the fact that we still do have a pandemic going on, even though some of us are vaccinated now, some of us have natural immunity now, and so but the things it would be counter to what we're doing otherwise to try to make things safer to stuff in one room, right? For example, we're having the event outdoors, it's asking people to stay masked, etc., etc. So that's why we wanted to make a virtue out of necessity and do this Zoom link here, and it's been very successful so far. We're really excited to have you guys here. If you have not gotten your tickets to Tamiami, please get tickets to Tamiami. It's only $10 right now. It's at orchidfestival.com. If you can't make it to the show, consider maybe getting a t-shirt. We have this beautiful art you can see behind me. 3 days of Orchids. Very cool concept. So we're doing that too. And if you can't do any of those things, just please share information about the festival. Let your friends know. Be like, hey, are you going to the festival? That all really helps, and helps encourage our growers to come to the show again, which is what it's all about. So we're really looking forward to it. It will be 3 days of Peace and Orchids, and that's really good. Anyway, so David, how are we doing?
Same thing, man. I don't know what's going on with it. It's kind of frustrating because I have it all sitting here, and so what we were doing though, we were actually restreaming this through YouTube and Facebook. So I don't know if like it's showing up on there. It's actually live on YouTube right now, and the video looks fine on YouTube. But yeah, but on here it's not, and for some reason it won't let me start it.
That's fun. So we have a little bit of technical difficulties here, folks.
That's where I think I'd rather not play it through his real player and just do it through Zoom, because it's got to be.
We're not getting that just yet. So I'm going to start recording. We're going to get rolling in a second. David, do you have any idea of like, do you think leaving and coming back would help, or is that going to mess up?
Yeah, I'm gonna have Billy check it out real quick. My tech guy's on it. See if he can figure it out real quick. If not, then I'll log out. Actually, you know what? What if I just log on my phone here for his sake, and we can just leave this on? Yeah, let's do it that way. That might be easier. I'm gonna log on with my phone, and we can just do it through my phone.
Okay. Cool. And yeah, if you're, I'll make you a panelist if you pop in and you're not a panelist already. All right, thank you all for showing up. We really appreciate it, and we know you're going to enjoy this lecture. Just getting set here. Oh, there he is.
Hang on a sec.
All right. Cool.
All right, got my audio.
You are panelist.
All right, I just got to kill my audio on my computer real quick. All right. Good?
Okay. Excellent.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming to this wonderful lecture, which is being given by David Off of the world famous Waldor Orchids. David is somebody who I think I've known you for about a decade or more now.
Yeah.
David. And we haven't hung out a whole lot, but what I can say about David is every single interaction I've had with him has been pleasant, and I like David a lot, so I'm really happy to have him here. And of course, comes from one of the great families in the orchid world, and just so happy to have him here. David, I was really interested to learn when I went to Waldor Orchids, your website, Waldor Orchids, which everybody should check out because it is a great and cool website with a lot of information on it. That your family actually, 4 generations ago, got started in the hotel business.
Yeah, I'm listening, dude. I'm sorry. My tech guy, he's working on things. So, yeah, we've been doing orchids for a long, long time, man. In fact, our dads probably knew each other better than we know each other.
Yeah, your dad was one of my father's favorite people.
Right.
Really missed.
Definitely. So, yeah, it's my intro. I'm ready to go.
That's basically, listen, I felt like your listed resume was underwhelming compared to what I know you've done in the business. They gotta give you a better title than was it assistant greenhouse manager or something?
Yeah, I like it low key, man. I would rather people underestimate it for sure. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, definitely.
That's fine. Wait, listen, David, I'll let you. I'll see you again.
Hang on a second. I'll pop right back in. All right, let me just hop back over to Zoom. All right, we good?
I'm going to assume that the first 2 rules of Orchid Buyers Club are not that you do not talk about Orchid Buyers Club. Is that correct?
Nice. I like it. So yeah, I guess that means you're in on the ground floor here, man. So yeah, I put a bunch of orchid books behind me just to make sure you guys give me a little credibility. So I'm good now. Thanks, man.
I muted your computer.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah. So I'm, like Bart mentioned, I've been doing orchids for a long time. There's little controversy as to first generation, second, third, fourth, or whatever. The weirdness is that my granddad had 4 children. His first wife passed away, marries my grandmom. She's 20 years younger than him. So my dad is almost like a third generation. So if you want to count it that way, then I'd be fourth. But anyway, we're coming up on, another 4 years. We're going to be a 100-year-old orchid business. So that's pretty exciting. And as you know, with breeding orchids, it takes a while. So we are actually working right now on producing plants that we'll be able to offer for a 100-year anniversary, that are things that we were produced, maybe 30, 40, 50, 60, 75, even 100 years ago here at our shop. So kind of exciting to go back and make some of the old stuff again and put it back into circulation. So it's going to be kind of fun. We're looking forward to it. But, everything with orchids is slow moving.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but is that going to be stuff that people are going to be able to get? Are they going to have to be in like Philadelphia? Or are they going to be able to order online?
Order online for sure. Yeah. So we're making things like my dad. One of his best things he made was a mini cat called Deborah Off. That's named for my mom. There's Elizabeth Off. That's my grandmother. I've actually crossed my grandmother onto my grandfather and my dad onto my mom. I know it's weird, but it's kind of fun. So the orchid breeding thing's relatively new. I've only been breeding myself for about 10 years. I haven't made too many crosses yet, maybe a couple hundred, and that's not many in orchid terms. But we are making some new stuff. We're also reproducing some of the older antique plants, maybe meristemming them or going back and remaking some of the old hybrids too. So it's a lot of fun, totally enjoyable, and things have been great. Business has been wonderful, and we appreciate all you guys out there online. You've been just tremendous this year. Buyers through eBay, we sell on Amazon, we sell on our website. So we sell in basically every avenue we can. That's how we do it right now, Bart. Any way you can sell an orchid plant, right?
Yeah, no, it's been this pandemic has been horrible, of course, and we weren't able to have the Orchid Festival, but it's been a real revelation in terms of people getting into the hobby, developing themselves more in the hobby, and that's really been reflected in. I'm sure you've seen the sales figures are really incredible. And so for us, we feel like we're just trying to evolve with that and fulfill orders as quickly as possible, but also realize that it may not be permanent and we have to, plan for the future. But definitely right now, what's really gratifying is you see a bunch of new faces. You see people who are kind of like they were at a certain level of orchid passion, and now they're like at a whole other level. Yeah. And so that's cool to see. You see them on the Facebook groups, posting their pictures and their plans. So it's great to see that something positive is coming out of all this.
Definitely. I've been on that thing too. Since business has been good, I've also been buying a whole bunch of plants, which also moves it forward because we are not an orchid black hole. Believe me, there's a lot of orchid black holes out there that somebody buys some rare plant and it goes away and nobody ever sees it again. We're not like that. I buy a plant with the intent of reselling it and also taking care of it because I'm a young guy. 42 years old, in case you didn't know. I plan on growing orchids for a long, long time, and I plan on being an old guy with a super, super old collection. But, we're sort of a preservationist. We want to keep old plants around for a long, long time and be able to offer them to people because I think it's something that's very important. And, if it goes to a botanical garden, it's only going to stay there. And who knows, maybe they make a decision not to do orchids next week, and then there's no orchids. So we really want to make sure, we're preserving things and moving on and keeping them clean, all those sorts of things. So we're really excited about what's going on here and keep moving it forward. So as far as we're going to get into my topic here, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, please take it away. I got to leave you guys a bit anyway for a little while because I have 2 small children. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And there's going to be a lot of trouble.
Definitely.
So I'm going to have to leave it to David to handle for a while. But I'll pop in towards the end and maybe hasn't been telling too many tall tales.
All right, so how long do you want me to talk for, Bart? 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah, that would be great, actually. Yeah, if you can talk until about 1 a.m. when my younger daughter's probably going to wake up, that would be really good. I could just end the lecture right then and there. We'll probably have 200 people in the lecture at that point, as everyone tells their friends.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But you can talk as long as you want. We've been doing about an hour, but if 45 minutes an hour, whatever you want to do, we'll do some questions at the end. Cool. I know there's going to be a bunch of questions on this one, so we'll make some time for that.
Awesome. All right, thanks, man.
Cool.
We'll jump in. All right, so I decided to do this. Bart asked me to give a talk, and I was like, I think that going to an orchid show is fun. Now, first of all, I am a commercial grower, but I also, when I go to a show, I want to be a big time buyer too. I love going to orchid shows and I love buying plants. So there's this running joke that every time I leave the booth, I come back with maybe a plant or two, or sometimes a box or two of plants. So I love going to orchid shows as much as the next person. But there's something special about going to a show, and we're gonna kind of go. What's up? You can talk to me. It's okay.
Phone here.
Oh, you want my phone up there?
Cameras.
While you're doing that, I want to interject and say that's what Mary always says about Martin. She says, "I can't let you leave because you get all the profits when you That's another thing.
Yeah. So yeah, let me just get started then. So I think this is very exciting. We're really glad that Bart and the crew there is putting on this show. This is the first major orchid event, really since well, it's been 2 years almost. So pretty exciting. We did do an outside show this June. We did the Philadelphia Flower Show. Like Bart was saying, this is kind of a one-off. The whole Woodstock theme. It's like a weekend and happens once, and it's awesome. And everybody wish they went. We did the same thing for the Philadelphia Flower Show this year. We did an outside show at FDR Park in South Philly. We did 1,000 square foot display outside. And we had a huge, we built actually a home, 20 foot by 14 foot house. And we built a greenhouse, we built a pergola, and we're showing people how you grow orchids inside and outside the house. So it was a really neat thing. Well received as an outdoor event, so I think this is going to roll on real good. We're really excited to do it. I think there's a lot of pent up demand. Now also there's a lot of pent up supply too, which is going to be awesome for all of us that are shopping for plants, because a lot of us vendors, we may not have had a big outlet for plants. There are some vendors that really only do shows. So in them only doing shows, they're going to have a huge, huge inventory that they're going to be really excited to bring to the show. And they're going to have hopefully plants that are maybe a little bit further along, so a little bit larger plant to sell you versus a seedling. So it could be a really, really cool show. I'm really excited to see it. For those of you that don't know, so we're Waldor Orchids. I am David Off. My grandfather started the business. My dad's run it for a long time. My uncle, now my mom and my uncle own the business. So we go along here. We do wholesale. We do retail. We sell online. We sell through Amazon. Basically every avenue we can. You can find us on Amazon. You can find us at Waldor.com. You can find us on Facebook. We do Waldor Orchids on Facebook. We also sell under the brand Orchid Nerd. You'll find me on Instagram as Cat Nerd. That's a cat with 2 T's, Cat Nerd. And then, yeah, we sell eBay, Waldor Orchid with no S on eBay. And I also sell plants out of my personal collection. When I say my personal collection, there's no number to it. This is where I kind of like a little action. I love being in front of a crowd. It's kind of weird. I'm sitting there looking like 3 screens of myself, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, we have a huge collection of plants, my wife and I, so a few thousand plants. So I actually sell my extra pieces on eBay too. My eBay handle is South Jerseyite, because those of you that don't know, now I know people in Florida, especially if I'm talking to Florida people right now, every third or fourth person is from New Jersey originally. So we have a different state here called South Jersey. There's North Jersey, South Jersey, and no offense to the people in North Jersey, but we're a different community here. We're kind of a farm town, shore town. We have the beach and boardwalk. Where our business is, we're right on the bay. So we get a great bay breeze all summer long. There's nice cool air blowing off the ocean. So we have great air movement here. We have really good water quality here at our shop. But we're a shore town, so that's a big part of our business, supplying plants out to the barrier islands, to all the fancy houses want to put a pretty plant in their kitchen table or whatever for the summer. So that's part of our business too. So just that's different ways you can keep in touch with us. We're going to move forward though with the show, because that's what I'm really excited about. So we've been planning this, obviously, since Bart said he's going to put it on. We started thinking about how are we going to do this. Now, something that's interesting that changed since Redlands being canceled last year and all that, we actually we changed a little bit of something that we normally would take like Laelia purpuratus to the show in bud and stuff like that. And, they're nice, they're pretty, the flowers, all that kind of thing. But we found that there was a bigger outlet for those selling them online. So some things have changed in what we're going to bring to the show. We are going to have flowering plants. I went through today and pulled plants. We have well over 100 beautiful cattleyas coming that are all in bud and flower. We'll also run some specials. So just to give you an idea from like a vendor standpoint, because I know a lot of you, you don't know the vendor end of it. So you just go to a show and you're excited to go look around, see all the different things that are for sale, maybe hunt down some good stuff. But from a vendor end, we have to think about what's going to sell. So we have to think about high-end plants, collector plants, rare plants, plants nobody's seen before. We also have to think about a good price point for people. Some people want to come in and they want to buy relatively inexpensive plants, which are great because you can add a lot to your collection relatively cheaply. For those of us, especially up north here, we get stuck with a thing called room, and we have to pay for this thing called heat that you guys get for free in South Florida. So we have to maybe limit a little bit of how many plants we can fit in our collection. So that being said, some of us want to grow just higher end plants because for the same amount of space, same amount of heat, we can actually put a plant in there that's much more valuable, and hopefully we get a little more enjoyment out of that. We can pat ourselves on the back saying that we have a rare or expensive plant. So that's part of it too. So from the vendor standpoint, I want to have, big blooming plants. Another thing too I'm going to do this year is a little different. I'm going to bring some specimen plants down that are going to be for sale, which is really kind of weird because most of us want to cut them all up and make a bunch of pieces. But I've got some things that are just going nuts, and we're going to bring some bigger plants too. And what that does is for you as a person picking up a plant, wanting to put it maybe in a tree or something like that, you can put a big plant up there. So versus putting 3, 4, 5 bulbs and it taking 10 or 15 years to get to size, you can spend a little bit more and get a huge plant that's going to put you a couple years ahead of time. So I always tell people when you buy a specimen plant, yes, it costs a little more, but you're buying time. So actually you're getting younger. Okay, that's a whole sales pitch. I'm just kidding. I love going to Orchid Show and interacting with people. So looking forward to using that one. And don't sell anybody when you are buying a seedling that you can't believe that you say, well, I don't buy green bananas. Don't even use that line, because those same people that told me that when I had really inexpensive small plants of some of the meristems that we did are now coming back and having to buy those plants at full specimen size plants. So go ahead and buy it when you can, and you may never see it again. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit. So first of all, I want to talk about 3 different aspects of the show, and that is before, during, and after the show. So 3 different aspects of going to an orchid show. So the before part is to check the vendor list. So Bart does a really good job on the Tamiami website of putting all of his vendors on there. He'll have links to our websites or links to contact information, because one of the biggest things that happens at a show is you realize, like, we're not really that big in respect to some of the people in Florida or in Hawaii. We're about 15,000 square feet under glass. Now, for New Jersey, that's a pretty big operation. So we have a lot of plants. We specialize in cattleyas. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of cattleyas. But one of the things is people will come up to us at a show and say, hey, I'm looking for this plant. Do you have it? I was like, yes, I have it, back at the shop, which is 1,200 miles away if we're in South Florida. So that's not going to help us at all. But what you can do ahead of time is by looking at the vendor list that's on the show website, you can find out what a lot of these vendors are sort of like, I'm not going to say famous for, but what we're known for. We are especially known for cattleyas. We do grow everything. We grow cymbidiums, pavs, phales, oncidiums, all the rest. But we are mainly known for cattleyas. So if you are looking for a specific plant or a certain type of plant, check the vendors. You'll probably find somebody that specializes in that. That's one of the things that's really great about the Tamiami and the Redlands show. They're so big. With 70 vendors plus, you're really going to see a great variety of plants. I remember one year I was looking for one particular plant, going around to all the different Vanda growers, and I'm like asking them, I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for this plant. Do you have it? Looking for this plant. Do you have it? Get like the third one. Finally, she says, no, you don't have it. It's Appendix 1, so you can't bring it into the country. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I'm going along and looking, and here I find somebody has it mislabeled. And it was available for sale, but they said nobody's going to have it, but here it was mislabeled. So I got lucky and found something I was really excited to find. So I think these are shows where you have 70 plus vendors where you can find almost any kind of orchid. So it's really neat to go around and hunt, but you don't always get the selection at the show. So at our show, we have usually a 10 by 10 booth or something of that size. We are 15,000 square feet. So you have a lot more back at the shop here, and we may have one-offs that we wouldn't bring to the show. We try to bring groups of plants or things that are in flower. So if it doesn't hit the right bloom season or we don't have a group of it, you're probably not going to see it at the show. But if you call us ahead, pre-order, maybe send us an email, whatever it is, looking for something specific, a lot of times we can bring it to the show for you. So that's definitely something you need to do. Pre-orders are really important to vendors too. It's nice to know going to the show that we have a group of pre-orders. It helps us out tremendously, helps us in our planning of what people are looking for, all those sorts of things. So pre-orders are really a great way to go. The other thing too with the pre-order is if you pre-order a plant from me, even if I'm planning on bringing it, I got a group, you get dibs. I'm going to get you the nicest plant. That's pretty good, right? Okay, I usually like people talking back to me, so you don't have to answer. So let the vendor know too, like when you're going to pick up. Say, look, I'm pre-ordering. I want this and this. I'll be there Saturday, and that's usually good enough for us. So we know like when to look for you. We can tell how far it is buried under our table that way. So it's easier for us to keep track of when and where you're coming. It's definitely a good thing to know. Another thing before that I would definitely say is figure out how much money you can spend. And that's not from a vendor standpoint. I'm talking to now, I am on the customer end of things right now because I love buying at an orchid show. So I usually want to go and figure out, get myself a handful of cash. Cash is great. And I know if you watch some of those shows, like I used to watch Richard Rawlings and he'd go around buying cars, he says, cash is king, cash is king. Cash is great. So if you can whip up some cash, put it in your pocket, that's the best thing to do at an orchid show. I'm going to tell you a story. One time I got stuck. So I was at an orchid show and I had an out-of-town vendor that had brought in some really, really, really rare plants, and he had brought them in for another grower. And he says, that guy canceled out on me. I have all these plants to sell, and I knew it was a one-time opportunity to buy some really, really rare plants. So what it did was I'm like, okay, well, I got to pay this guy in cash because he's out of the country. I could have given him a check. Unfortunately, I didn't have a check with me. So that's another thing. Your check can be your backup. But definitely get some cash together. And the problem was it was a weekend. My bank was closed, and I wasn't able to increase the limit on my debit card. So between me and some friends, and we got everybody together, scraped all the money together we could, all the cash, and I think I had literally like a couple of $1 bills and a couple of $5 bills left over at the end of this sale. But it was really a great opportunity. I'm really glad that I went and was able to pick up those plants. So make sure you got a little cash on you. Bring a check as a backup because a lot of the vendors will only take cash. If they're from out of the country, don't have a U.S. bank account, a lot of times they won't even take a check. So just something to remember because we do get a lot of out-of-the-country vendors at a show like this, and they're really a big asset to us because they're bringing in plants that you may not see here in the United States. So on that aspect of things you may not see, you really have to have an idea. Now we're going to skip from before the show to during the show. When you're walking through the show, you have to be able to walk past a plant and be like, that's the plant I want to buy. And know when you need to pull the trigger, because there have been times at a show. I remember one time I was buying Cattleya Why Not variety Yellow Kitty. It was a yellow Why Not. Now, yellow Why Nots are pretty popular right now. H&R's produced a lot of them. But at the time, yellow Why Nots were extremely rare. In fact, there was only several varieties that were known throughout the whole world. So that was a pretty rare plant. So I walked up to a booth. The guy had a box of Why Not Yellow Kitty. And I asked him, I said, what are these plants? He said, well, they're all divisions. And I looked at him, I was kind of dumbfounded because I knew how rare it was. And I said, well, I'd like to buy the whole box. So I buy the whole box from him and turn around. And there's a guy behind me with his jaw like dropped. He's like, I wanted one of them. So, we could always work out a deal. But you need to know when to pull the trigger, because there have been times where I walked past a plant or even I bought one time at Tamiami. I think it was Cruel Smith, maybe. They had an Angraecum, Crestwood 3-spur. So this is an Angraecum that instead of having the one spur at the bottom of the pouch, actually has spurs on the petals too. It's some of the craziest looking plants. And they had specimen size plants with multiple flowers on them. So when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Now, look, we're in New Jersey, and Angraecums aren't really happy here. We can grow them, but we get a little too cool in the wintertime, and we don't want to pay for that extra heat to keep them happy. So they can either lump it or whatever. So when I got them back here, I had a couple of our customers came in. I have a couple of customers, and when they see a big plant, they can't help themselves just like me. But I bought a couple of those Angraecums just because I knew it was a rare plant. So you really need to know when you're walking past a vendor, what is something that you may never see again, or is just a specimen plant that's taken them years to grow, and you can pick up a plant for a wonderful price. It may be a little more expensive, but you're getting something that you're buying. There again, like I mentioned earlier, you may be buying 5-10 years of that vendor's time in growing that plant. So walking past a plant and knowing when to buy it's really super important. All right, so be thorough when you go through, but also speed walk it. So what I do first when I get to the show is I zip all around, check out all my favorite vendors, and I'm looking for what they have, kind of doing a quick look. But I'm there the whole weekend, and believe me, I leave the tent every chance I get and go looking for plants, and I see stuff all through the week that I missed. So you have to do it two ways. You need to kind of go quick if you're getting there early, when you get best selection, that kind of thing. Got to go through quick and find what you got to find. But then you also really need to put your head down, go slow and low, and see what you can find by hunting really closely at each booth. So that's definitely a tip I would say. Now, on the early side, I want to talk to you about something else. So I know that Bart puts out there, they have a preview on Thursday that you can sign up for. It costs you a little money, but you get in early. And that sometimes is really, really super important because you get some really great plants that are going to sell out really quickly. There are some plants, I've had plants that I brought a lot of sell out the first day. Sometimes they'll sell out within a couple hours. Sometimes that real special plant sells out as soon as the show opens. So, it's one of those things that you can go early or you can go late. You can go in the middle, whatever you want to do. But if you go early, you're looking for best selection. You're going to get basically all the stuff's out. You're not going to miss anything. If you go in the middle of the show, a lot of times the buses and all that, that's exciting. There's lots of people there. Or you can go late. A lot of times people go late in the show. They're looking for a deal or whatever it is. As a vendor, I like all of that. I like the early people. I like the late people. I like the people in between. It's all fun and it's all different. And I do all three aspects of it and being at the show all 3 days. In fact, if I was a local, I would just sign up to go to the show all 3 days because I think it's just awesome because it's like a big party, really. When we go to these things, is it 4 days? Oh, shoot. You know what?
The preview makes it 4 days. So
Yeah.
You get the 4th day. Well, you made an excellent point, and sorry to interject. And Lucia wants to say a few words too. A lot of people, the habits of a lot of people are they go at the beginning and they get like that thing that they're afraid they're going to miss out on, never going to see again.
Yep.
And then they go right at the end and they clean up, especially with the foreign growers.
Yep.
Industry secret: the foreign growers don't want to take the stuff off.
Yep.
Really great deals. All right, I'm going to mute myself again because the creatures are out of control here. Thanks, David. Sorry.
Yes, that is a great point. So, and we do the same thing, knowing that people can't take a plant home with them. You can work out a deal. But what we do is we'll buy bulk too at the end. I can tell you a little story real quick. I was at the Redlands show, and it's been probably, I want to say 6 years or so ago, maybe a little longer. And Sunset Valley Orchids was there, and they had a cross of Alan Condo crossed onto Maui Plum. These are both big bifoliate red cattleyas, and one of my favorite things is bifoliate cattleyas. I will eventually have just a greenhouse of bifoliate cattleyas because I love them that much. But when I saw that cross, and these were, Fred has a little like a 3-inch or so pot. They were all in that size. He had most of a tray left, and it was Sunday, and I kind of scoped things out. Sunday morning, I'll kind of buzz around and see what's left, and kind of put it in the back of my head to go back by and ask toward the end of the show to buy, in bulk and buy whatever I can. So I knew that cross was really good, so I went back past the booth and I said, hey, I'd like to buy that whole tray. Well, you got there, and he sold me the whole tray of plants, and I was like, you know what? I know this is going to be good. I'm going to flower all of them, and we're going to see what happens. So out of that cross so far, I think we've gotten 5 awards, including the 2019 Miyamoto Award for Best Cattleya of the Year with a plant called Raspberry Diesel, which is just a huge bifoliate spotted red. So kind of neat to pick up things like that is a really special plant. At the end of the show, kind of do the bulk buy where you get a big group of plants that you wouldn't normally have grabbed. So it is a neat thing to do. We definitely recommend scoping it out, like I said, early, mid, or late. They're all good, and they all have their different aspects to it. Another thing I didn't put down in my notes, but it's also good, especially now that we're going to be outside. And I don't know how it works at Tamiami, where they let the carts in. I think they do. But, at Redlands, you always see everybody walking around with their pimped out wagons. So it's something to think about. Have the local guy put you together a wagon, see what other people are doing. I love seeing like the PVC racks so you can hang plants. They got the shade cloth over it so they don't burn. So think about, your wagon. I think somebody should be there just selling pimped out wagons. In fact, that's probably a good business opportunity for somebody. But it's kind of neat to see people walking around because you don't want to be carrying these plants around. Vendors usually don't have the space to hold it. Now, I know at both Tamiami and Redlands, they will have a holding tent. That's something else to think about. Usually it's a donation to support the local orchid club. So that's another great thing. You can go by and drop off a bag of plants. They'll hold them for you. That way they're out of the sun. They're being taken care of. And your hands are empty so you can buy more plants, right? That's what we're all there for. Not just us to sell them. Remember, I'm a big buyer too. We bring a van down when we come, and it's just a regular extended cargo van, about 14 foot long or so, but we will stack it 2 to 3 levels high, and coming back, it's usually stacked 2 to 3 levels high, so we do pick up a lot of stuff while we're there. One of the things I want to talk to you too about during the show is talking to the vendors, because us vendors, first of all, I don't know if you ever done the yard sale before, but you know how people just kind of slow roll past the yard sale and be like, I'm not going to stop. But if you stop and start talking to people and all that, people just like the interaction. So in talking to a vendor, a lot of times you're going to get some good information about things you're seeing that you may not know. I've had it happen more than once. I walked up to a booth one time. I was at Makanajima's booth, and Bob Scully was sitting there. He said, "Oh, that's a good plant." So I bought it. I mean, when you have basically a Cattleya guru telling you that's a good plant, you buy it. So it is kind of neat to go and ask the vendors, ask for information. If you don't know how to grow a plant, especially, so if there's some newbies out there, maybe you don't really know a whole lot about the different types of plants, ask about them. Especially if you live in South Florida, you can't grow cool growing plants. You will have people come into the show and they may have cool growing plants with them. And that's not to mislead anybody, but there's people that come from all over to go to your show. So there are people like me in colder climates, we can grow whatever we want. We have to pay for heat, but we can grow whatever we want. So you will find vendors selling all different sorts of plants. So make sure you're able to grow the plant that you're buying. If you don't know what you're doing, you're a noob, definitely check it out. Ask the vendor. Most of us have been growing for years and years and years. I was born actually only about 200 feet from where I'm sitting right now at the house right across the driveway. So I grew up here. I've been doing it my whole life. We know a lot about plants, and that's not bragging or anything. It's just that we want to help you, because if you're a better grower, then you're going to be happier with your purchase. You're going to buy more plants, and that's good for everybody. It's good for you because you're enjoying the hobby. It's good for us because we're in business to sell plants. So all of that's a benefit. So don't be shy about asking questions. I still ask questions all the time. Maybe provenance behind a plant, maybe asking them for a specific variety. There have been times where I'll ask for a plant, and 3 years later, that vendor is able to get me a division off of a rare plant and bring it to the show. But that's because I asked about it 3 years before. Otherwise, you would miss out on something like that. So definitely talk to the vendors. We're there for customer service. Otherwise, we could just send all our plants somewhere and have somebody sell them. But we want to be up front. We want to talk to the people. And you're tapping into a ton of knowledge. There are vendors there that, I mean, like I said, I'm 42 years old. I've been growing orchids my whole life. Grew up here at the shop. So I've been doing this, 20-some years full time. So I know a little about plants. There are people that know 2-3 times more experience than me and know a whole lot more about growing plants. So definitely tap into that knowledge. Don't be shy about asking questions. And we like the interaction. We like people just to stop and talk to us. So don't miss out on that. All right. What else did I talk about? Okay, looking for specimens. Like I mentioned earlier, specimen plants are a little different than buying like a division or buying a seedling. We want to buy a specimen plant once in a while because, like I said, you're buying time. You're getting something that it's taken that grower a long time to produce, a long time to get up the size, and now you can swing in, pick it up, and have instant gratification of a wonderful large plant. So that's definitely something to think about. Another thing too, it kind of just came to mind. I didn't have it mentioned down here on my notes, but seedlings are a lot of fun. You'll find a lot of people selling seedlings at an orchid show. Now, as a commercial grower and hybridizer, we want to have the best plants in our collection. And I realized here at Waldor, we have probably close to 3,000 plants in our stud collection. And out of that, we want to have like these awesome plants. And we said, well, you know what? It was kind of a shame that we weren't breeding with the plants that we had. Because we have all this wonderful stock, we really should be putting them to use and making new plants out of them. So most of us hybridizers, we are taking as high-end plants as we can. Because how many know orchids grow slow? I see you in the back? Yeah, okay. Now, orchids grow slow. I always say they're crock pot plants, not microwave plants. They take a long time. So when we make a Cattleya cross, generally when we make a cross, we're not going to see it bloom for almost 8 years. So it does take a little bit of time. So you have to be real careful when we make a cross. You want to make the best cross we can make. We want to use the best parents we can use because we want to make a quality cross. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. So when you're buying a seedling from a good grower, you're buying the next generation, the newest thing, the best that's on the market. There's growers like my buddy Ben Oliveira. Shout out to Orchid Arrows. You should definitely go check him out if you're a Cattleya person. I know I'm supposed to be here plugging Waldor, but you know what? Hey, I got to hook up Ben. So he's got great plants, great seedlings. There's people like my buddy AWZ, Alec. They've got some wonderful, wonderful Cattleya seedlings too. And you're buying, like I said, some really rare stuff. I've seen, like with Alec, he's sending lists out, and I'll see things that you've never seen before, like Cattleya species that are only spotted. Now they have no spots. or green or yellow, and they've never existed in these color forms before. So yeah, you're buying a small plant, and yes, it may take you a few years to get up to flowering size, but you're getting something that's super, super rare and something that is could turn out to be much, much better than the parent plant. So it's really exciting to grow seedlings, and there's a lot of vendors you're going to find there at the show that are selling nothing but seedlings. So definitely got to go and root around, see what you can find. So on my end too, I like to collect rare and antique orchids. That's my sort of specialty. Not that's not bragging on me. It's just what I like. You might like growing Phalaenopsis. I don't know why you do that, but but you can grow whatever you like. But I like growing rare and antique plants. And the neat thing about antique plants is this: is like I could go out and get Cattleya triani right now. I could buy a triani that's probably better than most other trianis that have existed in the last, say, 75 years. But I think it's really neat when you can buy a plant that was in somebody's collection over 100 years ago. I think that's actually, to me, really special because it's harder to collect something that's been recognized 50, 60, or 100 years ago than to just get a specimen that's newer, modern, and maybe better quality. But that's to me easier to collect. I actually want to do the harder part. I like collecting the old and rare plants, and there will be vendors at this show that will have rare plants. I know Mac Najima is not able to come this year. He's another one of my favorite vendors. I love going past Mac's bench. Some of you who grow Phalaenopsis and want to buy little plants or whatever, you'd be surprised at Mac's price point maybe, but he has some really awesome stuff, and really the price is kind of relative to whether or not you'd ever be able to find that plant again. So his stuff is wonderful. He has plants that nobody else has. He's a treasure trove of Cattleyas that have been hidden away in Japan for a long time. So there's some really, really great plants to be had at Mac's table. He's one of my favorite vendors, and I just emailing him tonight, and I was kind of bummed out he's not going to come, but I did get a list from him though, so that was pretty exciting. So I have to hit him up for a few plants. But so I like going around looking for Cattleyas. Sometimes I can buy a plant and I can say, as a commercial grower, or even for myself personally, knowing that eventually I can take a division and sell a piece, an extra piece or whatever on eBay, I know I can pick it up and flip it. I'm not going to sell the whole plant. We don't do that sort of thing. We like to keep a piece for ourselves. That's the nice thing about growing Cattleya is that we can chop them up, make pieces, and we don't ever have to sell the last piece of anything. So that's pretty neat. So we do that, and I like to collect, things that are maybe going to be popular down the road. And in giving the Cattleya talks, that's one of the things that I have to mention to people is that, I have a whole collection of old catalogs, and you go back and look at Stewart's and Armacost and even Carter and Holmes, some of their older stuff, even their more modern stuff. But looking through the older catalogs, you can see, wow, I could have bought this plant that by today's standards is very rare, very expensive. I could have bought that for $10 or $20, even $50 back in the day, and now it's worth 10 times that. So it's neat to go through and try to figure out what is something that's going to be valuable down the road that you can buy today at an orchid show and keep for maybe a long time and enjoy it because you get enjoyment out of it through the whole process. So it is neat to go putt around and see what you can find that's new and exciting and also maybe old. You can do it both ways. So that's a couple of notes about during the show. We have bulk buys. Look for that. Look for old stuff. Look for seedlings. Talk to your vendors. Ask the vendor. Be thorough going through the show. You can shop early. You can shop late. All good aspects. But yeah, that's during the show part. Now, there's one more aspect we got to talk about. And like Bart said, I can go all night, but I'm probably not going to because I'm already starting to get a little hoarse. I talk fast, and I'm glad he's recording this so you can go back and slow it down if you need to. So the after process part. So a couple of things. South Florida, definitely got to be careful with plants in your car. Hello. I mean, here in New Jersey, I can see people burning their plants, but in South Florida, you should know better. If you put a plant in a car and close it up, you're going to toast it. And don't do that. Don't do that. Put it at the old tent, where the local club's going to hold your plants for a couple of bucks. Throw them a donation, support the club, let them hold your plants, or bring your cart with your shade cloth over it, whatever. But be careful of putting plants in your car and toasting them. Don't do that. That's kind of the during the show, after the show part. But one of the things is when you get your plants home, you got to process them, right? How many people maybe don't like the potting medium your plant was in when you bought it? Maybe it's in sphagnum moss and you say, I can't grow in sphagnum. I got to grow in bark or I got to mount it, whatever it is. you got to make a decision about your potting medium. And the other thing you have to think about along that line, especially with Cattleyas, is you cannot always pot a Cattleya when you buy it. Sometimes you got to wait for its active roots or its active growth before you handle it. So you got to make that decision when you get the plant home. Hey, am I going to handle this now, or am I going to wait and pot it, maybe 2 months from now or next spring or whatever it is. So you got to be a little careful about when you handle your plants. Just because a plant needs potting doesn't mean that it wouldn't be better off to wait a little while longer until it's in active growth. So be really careful about handling your plants when you get them home. Don't be such a hater that you say, I can't handle sphagnum moss for 2 months. You can, believe me. Just be careful with it, but you can handle it for a couple of months. If you're going to mount it or whatever, like I said, just be careful with it. Make sure you're doing it at the right time. I know there's certain Cattleyas that if you handle them the wrong time of the year, they may pout forever and die. That's a little harsh, but really active roots is what you're looking for. So if the plant isn't actively growing, you may want to give it a little more time. So that's the thing for repotting. One other thing is labels. You'll see a lot of vendors will bring in, we use a thermal printer here at our shop, so our labels will hold up really probably for 4, 5, 6 years, even in Florida heat, without deteriorating. The writing shouldn't rub off unless you really scratch it hard. But our label quality is good. Our labels, we actually buy a heavier stock and pay for a more expensive printer because we want it to hold up. And you're talking about the labels, right? Yeah, so that's what we're talking about here. Is that sometimes you'll get a label from the show and it's, say, handwritten with a Sharpie. Yeah, Florida Sun and a Sharpie, good luck. I've even seen paint pens fade in Florida. But Florida Sun is a whole other animal. I've seen clear pots after 6 months. You touch a clear pot and it just shatters in Florida Sun. So something you got to think about if you're a Florida grower. You'll find tags a lot of times that are just printed on like the packing for the plant that you're buying. Of course, that's not going to work, and you're going to have to rewrite a label for it. So best thing to do with a label is there are vendors there that are selling tags, and you can buy tags that you're able to write on with a number 2 pencil. I think that's the best method. That's what I use in my personal collection. I use tags that I can handwrite with number 2 pencil, because number 2 pencil, I have some tags that are 20 years old and still on the plant, and you can still read it just fine. So you do not want to lose the information on there. So another thing when you're transposing the tag, especially when you're buying a seedling, if you're buying a higher end plant, whatever it is, make sure you transpose everything that's on the original tag. That could be a clone number, a cross number, the parentage, exactly what the parentage is. If they have specific cultivars on there, list all that information. Don't lose that, because that's a big asset for you down the road. A lot of times in going back and looking at the plant is you want to make sure that you have a reference for all of that information. Billy just mentioned too, it's a good point. Take a picture. If you're in flower, take a picture of the flower. But when I photograph plants, I take a picture of the flower and a picture of the tag right after it. And that way I have a reference for it, when I bought it, all that sort of thing. So that's all an easy way to keep track of buying plants. One other thing to do actually during the show too, or even before the show, for those of you who are new, I do a little bit of house plants here too. We're getting a little to the whole aeroid thing here at the shop. So I make the same mistake that I tell everybody they shouldn't do, and that is you shouldn't shop without a plant list. So I hit up Equigendra's open house a couple weeks ago, and I'm shopping aeroids with no idea of what's already in my greenhouse. I'm talking like zero idea. And that's a bad idea, because I'm going to end up duplicating the plants that I like. And unfortunately, that happens all the time, because we find people will buy the same plant over and over again just because they like that one plant. So you got to be careful with that. So make yourself a plant list. If you don't have a huge collection, you're looking to add specific plants in, make a list of what you already have, carry it with you. Now you can have it on your phone or whatnot. I'm sure you can access it right online through an online document, Google Doc or whatever like that. It's real easy to find. You can have it in Google Sheets, so you can search it real easy. That's definitely something you should do with your collection, is monitor all these things. So when we bring a new plant in here to the shop, I've been buying a lot of plants this year, and it takes a long time to process the plant. It's not like you just get it in and throw it in the greenhouse. I don't do that anymore. I get the plant in. I will list what came in, who it came from, how much I paid for it, all that information. Anything I can put down is great. You put down the information. You decide if you're going to repot it. You repot it. You put that new hanger on it. You sterilize the hanger or whatever. Put it on there. Get it ready to go in the greenhouse. Then I got to relabel it. And the label has all the information, has the cross on there, all that sort of information. We put all that on our tags. It takes a long time to process a plant into the collection. I actually had some plants that I bought at Equigendra's sale. I think it's been 2 weeks. I just potted them the other night. So there's a little bit of a process. But you definitely got to process your plants. Make sure you don't lose the tags. There are some people that get back from a show and just throw the tag away. If you're a newbie, don't do that. Even if you don't like the tag, shove it down in the pot where you can't see it. But keep the tag with the plant, because at some point in time you may regret getting rid of the tag. Definitely be a good idea to keep it on there. So fading labels is definitely something that's important. Yeah, processing the plants is something you got to think about. So when I was on the Equigenera sale, of course they're right around the corner from Kroll Smith, and I was traveling with my family in a small SUV, and I think I bought 6 boxes of plants. So I start looking at, like, how am I going to fit all this stuff in the collection? I know if you grow in South Florida, it's just about making a little more room outside. For those up here in the Northeast, or if we're in a cooler climate where we have to worry about when the freeze is coming, which is right now, we're starting to get a little cool at night. So we start thinking about what are we going to do with all those plants that we bought over the summer, and we got to fit them back in our greenhouse. So that's something to think about. You got to have a place for the plant when you get it back, and how much you buy, how many plants you buy, all comes into it. But there's always room for one more. So my trick is, when you buy a new orchid plant and you get back to your shop, or you get back to your greenhouse, your growing area, the trick is you take them in one plant at a time. You can always fit one more. If you take a tray in, you probably can't fit the whole tray, but you can always fit one more plant. My greenhouse back here, I've got 800 square feet, and there's, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 plants in there probably. But I hang 5 layers high. Probably not ideal for everything, but I just slam it in there for the winter. We grow outside about 6 months out of the year. I'll move my bigger plants outside. So you got to think about when you get back to your house, your growing area, whatever it is, you got to think about, how many plants can I fit in here? Where am I going to put them? So that's about the after show part. So just a couple things to think about before, during, and after the show. I hope to see you guys when we go down to the show in Florida. Stop by our booth, say hello. Like I said, we'd like to talk to you. So you can hit us up on Facebook. We're Waldor Orchids. You can hit me up at Cat Nerd on Instagram. Waldor Orchids also posts on Instagram. You can check us out on our website, waldor.com. You're getting a little close to getting pre-orders for the show. You may be able to still get a plant or so, but we come from a long distance. We actually drive to the show. It's about 22 hours from our shop down to Homestead. We'll drive it in 2 days. I'm bringing my son with me this year, getting him a little indoctrinated into orchids, and tell him I'm going to take him out for some good food and maybe a fishing trip. So kind of sucker him into going with me. But we'll be leaving, packing a truck on Monday, leaving Tuesday for the show. So we still have maybe over the weekend. If you're still looking for something, you can hit us up on our website. We also have Orchid Nerd. You can hit us up on there too. Yes, there are all different ways you can keep in contact with us. Yeah, so I think I'm getting toward done. I think Bart said we might have some questions or something. I'd like to interact with you a little bit, and I don't know if Bart will come back or not. He might be busy with the kids, but well, there he is. If you talk long enough, he'll pop back in. So I don't know if you have any questions pop up on your screen or anything.
You're here with me and my elder daughter Amelia.
Hey, Amelia.
And we are going to. Yeah, that's Mr. Off.
That's it.
All right. All right. So, do we have any? I missed what you said last, but I think you're about to open up to questions. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, listen. Thank you so much for that incredible talk. Hopefully, everybody is really inspired to be part of this incredible culture of orchid hobbyism that we have. And I had to laugh because when Dane was talking about that evil Mac Hanajima, like, man, that guy's got a few of my dollars in his wallet too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's right. But that's the way it goes. People have incredible stuff, and you just have to realize it and grab it at that moment. And that's one of the really cool things about orchid festivals, which is also a little bit different than shopping online. Listen, we love the shopping online. We think it's cool, but you don't get that kind of ability of like just stumbling across something where you're like, you might not have been thinking about it that day, and that might not have popped up in a Google search if you search for it, but here it is, the Holy Grail, and you got to grab it. So it's a cool thing. I hope everybody's excited as we are, and just great to be back in the world of in-person orchid events. And like I said, we have a couple questions here. We'll get to in a second, but we feel we have really we really take the position that like safety first. We have to be careful. We don't want anybody to get sick or have any issues. So we're very happy about the show being outdoors, and we think that with some practical, pragmatic stuff, we're going to be able to have a great experience for everybody. Anyway, with that, I'm going to. Okay, well, this is a great question. We would like to pre-order. Which way is best to do this?
So you have a couple options. For us, you can put an order through on a website. What you would do is you would hit like a local pickup, and you leave a note in there that says you'd like to pick them up at the show. Now, like I said, that's probably only valid. Really, we'd like to have them before this point, but by Sunday, that would be like probably the cutoff for us to get them on the truck. The other option too is to call. Then that's usually a little better because then you know for sure. So you can look through a website, whether it's ours or whoever's it is, pick out the plants, and then call and say, hey, I'm looking for this plant, and this plant, and this plant. You have them on your website. These are the prices. I'd like you to bring them to the show. That way you get a verbal confirmation that your plants are actually going to show up in Homestead or in the Redlands. So that's something to think about. But yeah, so usually right through the website if they offer that. Otherwise, calling is definitely a good option.
That's great information and a really good advice. I'm going to post here at the chat to host panelists. All right, I'm posting here the vendor list on the website. That list is up to date. We do have, unfortunately, one cancellation, which is Best of Ty, who's unable to attend due to COVID-19 quarantine restrictions. But other than that, everybody who's on that list is going to be at the show. They're going to have their orchids there. So I'm sorry we're not quite as together and with it this year, so we don't have contact information there. But you can Google those people and you can check them out. I'm really happy to. All right, and so that's the way I would do it. All right, and so. Can we get the website? Well, I think it's is it Waldor.com?
Yeah, it's just Waldor, WALDOR.com. But
cool.
That's the easiest way to get in contact with us.
Right, and there's someone asked, please write the Instagram or Facebook again. I think that the Instagram, I think it's pretty easy, right? You just search for Waldor Orchids.
Yep.
And you're welcome to search for most orchids too.
There you go. Yeah, if you want to do Instagram too, I've got my own Instagram handle too. It's Cat Nerd. That's CATTNERD. I looked the other day. I think I had something like 900 posts or something like that. It's almost all Cattleyas. A couple things. If I'm eating something good, I might show you something that I'm eating that's good. But usually it's just Cattleya pictures. I don't get real in depth. I just tell you the name of the plant. But this is all stuff out of my personal collection and Waldor's collection. So that's also a nice kind of window into what's in the collection that you may not see anywhere else.
That's great. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Any tips for bringing purchase plants on the plane after the show? That's a good question.
I can't hear you.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, you kind of. I think the best way to do it, David, correct me if I'm wrong, is to kind of wrap them up in newspaper or something and stuff them into your carry-on, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's the best way. And the other thing is too is a lot of us vendors that come to the show, we have a little bit of packing material on hand. So you can usually have something around that you can grab. A lot of the vendors have a little extra stuff. Yeah, somebody just mentioned dirty laundry. That's another way. Keeps anybody from poking around in your luggage too, if you wrap your orchids in dirty laundry. I know that's been done before. But yeah, something soft. Make sure your leaves, especially on something like Cattleya, where they're really rigid leaves, you want to put them flat to each other. Make sure the edge isn't cutting into another edge or something like that. So sort of put packing material all between the bulbs and leaf structures that are not damaged. One of the main things I find, I pack a lot of orchids. I'm the guy that packs if you get a box of orchids from us, most likely I packed it. I find that the best way to pack is to pack them tight. You don't want the plant to be able to move at all. So the tighter it is, the safer it'll be. Even if it means kind of twisting a leaf or something like that to get it nice and tight, it's much safer than it being too loose. Another thing too is if you're traveling in or out of the country, I don't know if you're going to do it for this show, Bart, but I know at Redlands you normally have inspectors there that are on hand if you're traveling out of the country, if you need paperwork or anything like that.
Well, that's a really important point. Unfortunately, we do not have USDA on site at Tamiami, and the reason is we asked them to come, and unfortunately, due to departmental policy, they are not doing any quote unquote community outreach at this time.
Yeah.
That is another COVID-19 restriction, which we hope will be removed. But what we have information on the Tamiami International Orchid Festival website under the frequently asked questions, and also on our Facebook page about what we recommend to do. And what we recommend to do is come on Thursday or on Friday morning. Get your plants, and you can go to USDA up by the airport, and you can get your documents there. There will be vendors that show who have CITES documents. So you can get the CITES documents, then you have to go up to USDA, get them executed up there, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, but unfortunately that's what we're gonna have to do this time. I'll read that to you. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
That's right. See, there might have been a couple more questions pop through. Are you looking for a red Cattleya? Red's really tough. See, most of your red pigment in Cattleyas comes from breeding with Sophronis coccinea, which is only about 3 inches tall. So standard red Cattleya is kind of hard to come by. I've got a couple that'll be coming down with me. So a couple off the top of my head. They're not really fire engine red. They're going to be orange red. The only thing that gets really close to red is, like I said, Sophronis breeding, and you don't want those for South Florida. So normally they're not going to make it to the show. If I'm bringing something down to Florida, I'm not going to bring anything with coccinea because it's too cool growing and you're just going to kill it. So your reds are probably going to go more toward orange red. And there are a lot of new breeding lines coming out where you're going to see red Cattleyas. We had a bunch available on our website that are dark red, but they're going to be more of an orange red than what you're calling fire engine red. Fire engine red is not good for South Florida. Were there any other questions there, Bart? I saw that one pop up, so I kind of grabbed that one.
There was I had become obsessed with finding a raincoat. I didn't know this abbreviation.
That was fire engine red. I got that one. That was what I was just talking about.
Okay. So that we covered that one. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that might be it. Anybody else got any questions? All right. Well, I'm gonna ask. The only bummer about the Zoom lectures is that you don't get the applause that you get with the in-person lectures. So we're just gonna stipulate. But Emmy, do you want to help me applaud Mr. Osh? I give him a big round of applause. Yeah.
Well, let's hear it, Emmy.
Okay. There's one other question here.
I saw it pop up. Full sun Cattleyas. The only thing we're going to recommend is Schomburgkias. There are some Schomburgkias you can grow in full sun in Florida. That's about it. There are a few maybe Shambo hybrids, but really the Schomburgkia species, and even those have to be acclimated. Anytime you're buying a new plant, taking it to your conditions, don't assume it's used to full sun, even if it can handle full sun. You want to start it out and acclimate it. But be very careful acclimating to your conditions. I'm bringing them from New Jersey. Even if I'm growing them in almost full sun here, South Florida sun and New Jersey sun this time of the year is completely different. So be careful acclimating them.
That's a really good point, and also changing sunlight patterns. And it happens to professional growers. At least it happens to us. We had a little tear in the plastic on the greenhouse,
right.
And the only way we noticed it was all of a sudden there was this dagger swath across the greenhouse where the sunburned plants were what the heck happened? There's a little bit of plastic they got burned away, and it might have been that way for a while, but only when the pattern of sunlight changed.
That's right.
Did it become an issue.
That's right.
So that's a really, really good point. So David, thank you so much.
Yep.
Some people are going to be able to ask you some questions at your booth in between you, selling all these incredible plants as well.
Yep.
And just absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for this incredible presentation.
My pleasure, Bart. Thanks a bunch. See you guys soon.
See y'all soon. Take
Bye.
care.